So I've described some of those more autumnal days as glorious. Today didn't quite measure up to the standard of glorious because the cold wind was cutting into the bright sun. But for the end of January, there wasn't much to complain about. So mid-afternoon, I decided that I was going to run up and check the mailbox. There were 0 letters and 4 packages there. And that will form the end of this video. But I wanted to talk first about some of the things I saw on that little trip. After I hit the mailbox, I decided that I should probably swing on by the Hellmart and see if they had pellets in stock, stove pellets, wood pellets for the stove. And when they have them, they're stacked up on a pallet out in front of the store, right next to the main entrance doors. And I drove by and I saw that they had them, and I went and parked, and then I grabbed myself a random shopping cart that somebody had left sitting around, and I went to the stack of pellets and I started loading them in. So right next to the pallet of pellets, there was a young gentleman there with a cardboard sign that said, "Need food." And I didn't say anything until he said, "Hey, do you need some help with that?" So it was pretty clear that I didn't need any help with that. I'm still more than well enough to haul a couple of 40-pound bags of pellets into a shopping cart. But it was clear that, he was offering. So when I got the pellets into the cart and was getting ready to go inside to pay for them, I asked him what he wanted to eat, and he said that he's not picky at all. So I went in, and inside the Hellmart there's a Subway, and I got a foot-long sandwich made the way I like it, and paid for my pellets, and went back outside and gave him half. The point of this story is not what a good guy I am. The point of this story is that this kid, maybe about 20 years old, long, beautiful black hair falling in his face. How does anyone get so beat so young? He's barely out of high school, and he's already whipped. That just shouldn't be happening in a country this obscenely wealthy. So the next thing I saw, I tried to get a picture of it, but I'm not sure that I caught it. If I do, I'll probably make it the thumbnail. But there was I was waiting at a red light, and a guy drove across the crosswalk, over the crosswalk, on his rig. And his rig was amazing. It was a bike, but it was a nice bike. It was there was a trailer behind the bike that he was pulling, and it was a nice trailer. In the front basket or whatever, there was a big overstuffed sleeping bag. On his back was a large knapsack. And although it was clear that at some point in his life he'd had resources of some kind in order to buy this relatively nice stuff, it was also very clear that he was living rough, that this was his kit, this was his way of living. So this gentleman was probably closer to 40 and not anywhere near as tragic as the kid sitting next to the pellets. It was really just interesting to run my eyes over his solution to the problem of living without having money. He did a good job. I mean, it wouldn't have been enough kit for me to feel like I was living the good life or satisfied or anything like it, but at the same time, it was clear that he had everything he needed to keep going, to survive, to maybe not have a life in any classic sense, but certainly to have a living of some very marginal sort. So he's the second beat generation. The third beat generation is me. And my version of beat, of Bayat, as Kerouac said, is rather more complicated. We'll get to that in a minute. Alrighty, so the first part of the video that just finished, as you watch it, was filmed on the 31st at sunset. It is now the 1st after midnight, and I'm just now getting to part 2. So the first thing I want to show you in terms of third level beat generation is this bit of kit. So on the back row there, what you're seeing is the pellet stove and the pellets that are used to fuel it. And up toward the front of that, you're seeing a Chinese diesel heater still in pieces, and the currently empty brand new jerry can that will be full of diesel in order to fuel that. So I just want to talk a little bit about some of the reasons why I think the little thing here, the littler thing, is going to probably prove to be superior. So this pellet stove here, this is a brand new pellet stove because the old one died, and the landlady, you know all this. This new pellet stove is much smaller than the first one that was here, but still it cost about $2,000. It takes, on a very cold day, 24 hours, probably pretty close to a bag of pellets. And there are many pieces to this that can go wrong. I'm really glad it's here. I'm really glad I had a chance to live with a pellet stove for a while, but it's work. You got to go out and get these pellets all the time. You got to find places where they have them in stock, which is a much bigger deal than you might imagine. Then every couple of days, at least, you got to open up the pellet stove, clean out the ashes, nasty, messy job. And another thing is, this is installed, right? It's installed permanently into a house. So the alternative that I plunked down some experimental cash on, this Chinese diesel heater, the first thing to say is it's portable. So whereas the pellet stove is great, more or less great, if you've got a permanent habitation, if you're going out on the road, this is going to be something that's much more useful. Also, because this pellet stove is installed in a permanent habitation, it relies on radiant heat. So you fill it up and you fire it up, and as the pellets drop and burn, they provide you with radiant heat like any wood stove does. In the case of the little guy here, the idea is that this little diesel engine runs inside, and then all of the heat comes out through this single pipe, and you kind of direct it where you want to. In other words, it's not radiant heat. It's more like, a forced air kind of system. And then on the other side of things, out this other pipe comes the exhaust. So my idea here is that the diesel heater ends up set up outside, and that you kind of pipe the heat into the rooftop tent or the wall tent or the cabin of your truck or the bed of your truck or whatever it is that needs to work and be warm. One other little thing that I want to say about the diesel heater here is just a little bit of history. So initially, these diesel heaters were pioneered by a German company, I think, called Webasto. And they, at the time, and right now, down to this day, cost you $1,500 or so to get a non-Chinese version of these diesel heaters. But a couple of years ago, the patent on the diesel heater expired, and the minute it did, a bunch of Chinese companies jumped on board, and this one costs $200. I think I paid $212 maybe, and that was one of the higher end ones. There's, from $130 on up, basically. There's a million different versions of this. One video I saw suggested that there's really no difference between the $1,500 ones and the $200 ones. Certain things are built a little bit better, but most of the people who run Chinese diesel heaters like this will recommend that certain parts of it, that you replace them, right? So I don't know exactly what it is that I'll get into, but certain of the pipes, certain of the fittings, certain of the hardware that is associated with these diesel heaters, you can go get much better versions of them for cheap at your local hardware store, whatever it is that you use. So $200, $1,500 for the fancy version of this, at least $2,000 plus installation for a pellet stove. So right off the bat, you're doing pretty well. Yes, this is not a lifetime purchase. I don't think a diesel heater is going to keep you as warm as you want to be winter on winter. for years and years. Just not going to happen. But nevertheless, if and when it breaks down, you drop another $200. And you can do that 10 times before you get to the price of one of these. One other little thing, I sort of mentioned the inconvenience of having to find pellets, buy pellets, haul pellets all the time. When it comes right down to it, from whatever I've been able to tell, the price per staying warm day between the pellets and the diesel fuel is roughly about the same. It's probably going to be about $5 a piece, roughly on average, for a 24-hour period to stay warm. The difference is that diesel is everywhere. I almost said ubiquitous, but let's stick with everywhere. You just got to run down to a gas station. And most gas stations have diesel. Whereas with the pellets, maybe you can get them for a relatively cheap price at Hellmart, but that's only if they have them in stock. And if they don't have them in stock, then you're stuck hunting around at various other little places like True Value Hardware, or God help us, the chimney store, where they are much more expensive, always in stock. And that little chimney store is the same place that sold her the stove and installed it for her. And they're dealing with them leaves something to be desired. Let's just leave it at that for the moment. So this is a project. This is now a part of the pile, taking up more square feet than instead of going in the right direction and having the pile take up less square feet. But I think it's going to be worth it in the end. All right. I want to finish off by showing you the rest of the stuff that I got in those 4 boxes at the mailbox place today. All right. The rest of the Amazon haul. These 2 little things right here, this is going to be my go anywhere spice rack. So in the first one, I'm probably just going to put salt and pepper. In the other one, I will put the 2 spices that I use the most. Probably right now, it'll be some version of chili arbol and cumin, because that works across the Southeast Asian and the Mexican kinds of cuisines that I cook most. So, you know, maybe I'll have a home base someday and I can have a more traditional spice rack. In fact, I already do. But for mobile purposes and minimalist purposes, I picked up those 2 for like $20 a piece. Next. So the reason I got this is, first of all, it replaces a rice cooker, a rice pan, a rice pot. The rice pot worked fine. I didn't need to replace it. But the difference with this guy is that I can also use it to just boil water. The spouts there were the thing that really drew me to it. It's got the little pour spouts up there on the sides. And in addition, the lid can also strain and drain to a degree as well. So instead of having to have a tea kettle and a rice pot, this one thing can serve both functions. That's the idea behind this purchase. In addition, I'm hoping that this piece of it, which is basically a steamer insert for the pot. I love me some steamed Brussels sprouts once in a while, that sort of thing, but that's not really the reason I got it. The reason I got it is because between the straining on the glass lid and the straining that's available a little bit more crudely and roughly through this strainer basket, then I don't have to bring a strainer either. So this pot cost me like $50, which is a lot for what it is, but it had these little key features that meant that that one item could serve several functions, and I would not, for example, need to haul along a regular tea kettle, a regular electric pot, electric kettle, whatever. So there's that. Let's jump over to this side. I've got these scoops. Basically, I intend to use a coffee scoop, which is a thing I use every day. Already have one, but this one will go, the second one will go with the baking soda, which I use to kind of clean and refresh my water jugs. That is a little luxury item, the best bath oil ever made. Not that I'm going to be taking a bath very often out on the road. The heart of what I bought is right here. So this big one is a tripod. And at some point I'll probably pull it out, set it up. Basically, the reason I got this particular tripod, it's a really nice brand that has cheaper tripods and much more expensive tripods, but this one's kind of in the middle, and I bought it because the center pole of the tripod pulls out and can be used as a handheld carry, a selfie stick, to use that gross little term or whatever. The other reason I bought this particular brand was that they have all these different kinds of little clips. I love the idea of being able to hook my camera onto the strap of a backpack, for example. Anyway, I did a lot of research before I bought a tripod. That was one of the big deals for me. The next thing here is a zoom lens to fit my Panasonic camera. Right now, I can't remember right off, but I think the kit lens that came with it runs something like 20 to 45 millimeters. It is a zoom lens, but it's not a very capable zoom lens. This will at least triple my ability to zoom in. So I felt like that was going to be a reasonable investment. Didn't cost me anywhere near what most zoom lenses from Canon or Sony or someone fit into in that category. And finally, the thing I'm really maybe most excited about in camera terms is I finally did drop some money on a deity microphone. So that too will be mounted on the camera, and I've read good things. You can see it says universal shotgun microphone, and this will replace the kit microphone that came with it, which is cheap and subject to switches getting bumped and that sort of thing. One of the reasons I bought this particular microphone is that it takes regular batteries. Don't need any kind of proprietary battery to go with it or anything like that. So Speaking of the pile, you can kind of see at the foot of the pile there, the first thing I didn't talk about was some hoses that go to the Julka, which is my current system for mobile hot water. There's a box there with a RV fridge in it. And there's another box down there with a power supply in it. A big, expensive, beautiful power supply that can be recharged conventionally or through solar and so on. On top of that is the stuff that is supposed to be the most important. The stuff about maybe getting a job again someday. The stuff about all my websites and the digital domains, the emails, and all the rest of that. Anyway, I'm not going to go too far into the weeds, too deep in the weeds on any of that right now tonight. This is already plenty long enough. But this is what I was talking about in the blog about there being 25 square feet or so of pile that was unsorted stuff that, still needs to be addressed in the next 6 weeks before I get my ass booted out of here. Of course, that's a little bit bigger now because I still have to integrate this stuff and that stuff. But I think in the long term, it's going to be worth it. All right, darlings. You want to know where my head's at? You want to know how I'm doing? Any old time, you know where to find me. Daily at the blog. A little less frequently here on the YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Thanks for thinking about me. And know that I'm thinking about you too.